So this will tell us whether it's an issue with Facebook or it's an issue with Zoom. Okay. Okay, I think we're live on Facebook actually on YouTube right now, which is cool.
Okay, cool.
So let me just put a link on Facebook. So okay, perfect. I think I mean, we are already live. So if someone will be watching at some point, it's awesome. If not, still awesome. Uh,
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's always nice to have conversation with you, spend time together. And if someone can benefit from it and enjoy it, find it entertaining or useful, great. And if not, it's still always a fun time being together, even if it's virtual, which I think has been most of our relationship, huh?
yes, except a brief period in Warsaw when we had chance to do some work or more of
Yeah.
a talking face to face. We didn't do much work.
No, we did this a few talking a few times, and that's it. And yeah, I think we've had more contact since, actually.
Yeah, I think we do. So, well, for those of my friends who don't know you, this is Noam. Noam is a crazy. I was about to say Belgian, but you are a citizen of the world with part of you originating from Belgium. Uh, you run an amazing restaurant from the back of your garden. You work with people all over the world as a coach. You write books. What else do you do? You appeared in a movie about coaching. You sell your photographs. Is there something that you don't do?
uh, Not much. Actually, yesterday I was doing a workshop for women entrepreneurs, and I was telling them about running a business alone and how the restaurant I do everything alone since I started. And yeah, I literally do everything from the accounting to the marketing, the photos, the website, the Facebook ads. I talk to clients, I cook, I clean the toilets. Um, it's really what you call a one man show, I guess, you know.
Yeah, and in your case, it's not only one man. It's
Oh wait one
it's
second.
way more than.
We've got a live visitor. Give me 1 second. This is what happens here in Costa Rica. People show up and we're gonna see who it is. Hola. Hey Andrea, I'm on Facebook Live right now. Can we talk another time? Awesome, brilliant. Talk to you soon. Take care. So this is my
Oh,
neighbor, and we're gonna take a chance to say hi to the cats at the same time.
yeah. Hi, Kat. Hi, Andrea.
So there we go. And so as I'm standing up, let me show you where I am for those who have no idea. So this is here, my home. At least this is outside. There we go. And now we're back.
When did you move to Costa Rica? How long ago was that?
So I moved to Costa Rica 5 years ago from New York. Before that, I was in London for about 4 years. And before that, I was 2 years in Poland, Warsaw. Before that, I was in India, Singapore, Turkey, UK, and until 18, I was in Belgium.
Um, what took you to all those places, or what didn't take you to more places?
What didn't take me? Well, I've definitely been supposed to go to other places too, but eventually, well, what took me to all those places is just that I wanted to see different things. I love new. I really love new. I love always, yeah, new is exciting. And so I always wanted to see new places, learn new stuff, meet new people, try new foods. And I remember people always asking me, well, aren't you tired of traveling? Aren't you tired of moving all the time? I was like, absolutely not. Like, don't you want to settle? I'm like, absolutely not. And I would always end with, at least for now. And maybe someday it'll be different. I don't know. Maybe someday I will
Mhm.
want to settle, but right now I have absolutely no desire to be in the same place for a long time. And that went on for, I don't know, like 7 or 8 years. And then eventually it happened like that. In one moment, one question someone asked me, and I was like, holy fuck, I want to live in one place. I want to settle down somewhere. So yeah, that's how it happened.
Why Costa Rica? How come Costa Rica?
Oh, why Costa Rica? Because I had a bunch of people tell me, you need to go there. It's a place for you. I kept asking why Costa Rica, and nobody could tell me. So eventually, when I was living in New York, I needed to leave the country for 2 months to get a different visa. And I thought, people have been talking about Costa Rica this whole time. Let's give it a shot. Found a cheap little apartment by the beach, and then I fell in love with the people. The way people live here, the mindset, um, has been mind blowing. If I may, there's like two little stories that really, for me, represent what was different for the people here. One is I met this woman in a bus, and we're on a long drive, and she's got her daughter sitting next to her, and we talk, and she explains to me her daughter's finishing university, and as soon as she finishes university, she's going to move to the beach and open a beauty salon over there. And I'm like, business coach? I'm like, yeah, great. So business is booming. You're going to expand. You're going to hire more people. That's amazing. Oh, no, no, no. I'm closing the one in San Jose. I'm like, wait a second. What would you close the one in San Jose? You've got two. You make double the money. And she's like, well, one is enough. I don't need more money.
Mhm.
And I remember being like, what do you mean you don't need more money? Who the fuck doesn't need more money? She's like, yeah, it's less hassle. Like, I don't need to have two. One is enough. And that was kind of amazing because in New York, I had just met, like maybe a month or 2 months before, people who make $600,000 a year and tell me it's not enough and that they struggle to live with over $500,000 as a family. And this woman tells me that two beauty salon is actually too much, doesn't need more. And I'm like, wait a second, who's more free of these two people? Which person like I want to live? I want to be like this woman. And then there's another girl. We're walking, and I tell her, "Oh, we need to turn right to go to my house." And she said, "Oh, we can go left." I'm like, "Really?" She's like, "Yeah, yeah, we go left. Turn past after the little store. You turn left after the greenhouse. You turn right after the mango tree. You turn around a little bit. You pass a little bridge. You turn left, and then you get to your house." I'm like, wait, is that shorter? She's like, no, no, definitely not. It's longer. I'm like, what an idiot. Why would you tell me a longer way? And it's like, well, it's a beautiful day. You have time. You want to walk a nice walk. And again, I was like, wow, you have time? Who the fuck has time? Nobody has time. Who has the time to take a longer way? But this girl does. And so I realized people here are outside of the matrix as I knew it. I mean, these people didn't need money, they had time. I mean, they figured it out. That's why I decided to live here. It seems to me that they figured something that we we're all running after in the West and can't seem to get enough of.
So it seems like for them or for you now, it's not only that time is money, but time is the money.
But what time is their money?
Time
Yeah,
is,
time is their money. Yes, absolutely.
yeah.
And relationships.
Uh,
I mean,
yeah.
here it's amazing. I had, for example, we talked about my neighbor who's been so this new neighbor who moved in, for people who don't know,
Mhm.
who from the day she moved in started sending me angry messages and has been a pain. And I live in the countryside. There's only four neighbors around us. So there's me and then another four neighbors. There's five of us within a kilometer of where we are. She managed to piss off the other four neighbors in 4 weeks. Basically, one neighbor a week. And uh, my construction guy, I introduced him to them initially so that he could help them and do work for them. And eventually, he told me that he wasn't going to do any work for them because of the fact that they were giving me a hard time. He was like, I don't want to work for them. If they're not being nice to you, I'm not working for them. And again, in another thing is like, well, wait, but it's no, they don't really care for money here. They care for people, they care for time, and that's what I love about the people. And that's why here a lot of the local people are not affected by the crisis as badly in a way. The people really from the village, I mean, they grow their stuff, they live their lives, they've got their families. Uh, Somehow they manage to look after each other in a different way. So it's really nice. It's cool.
Right. Of course, it's difficult to not look at the situation that we and world is in. You mentioned the crisis. So, how is the situation in the larger area in Costa Rica? Do you just feel like it's something you watch on TV or something? Do you feel connected to the situation or more of disconnected?
I mean, definitely connected. I mean, in San Jose, in the capital, it's like everywhere. It's like every capital city. So San Jose is really it's the Matrix. It's pretty similar to everywhere else. And here in the seaside town where we are, it's all based on tourism. So I mean, there's no economy. The economy has crashed. Like every single business pretty much is down. But again, somehow there's this amazing thing of how everybody helps each other because the people who are successful here are what I call the hippie capitalists. You know, they're good at business, not making money, but they also care about nature and the world and spirituality and others and all of that. So, and so that's what I'm seeing now is that very quickly we got into situations where there's so many people doing projects to help other people in the community that within 48 hours they had too much food, and the messages on Facebook were, who needs food? Like, how do we find more people who are struggling? Because we know there's got to be, but where are they? And so we're kind of in a place where, interestingly, so far, touch wood, it seems that we are ahead almost of a lot of the problems. And so I'm seeing people here are very resilient for that reason because it's money doesn't talk. So when I have conversations with people here who are even struggling a little bit and worrying, they realize that very quickly they can talk to people and actually barter everything, and it's completely normal because people are used to this. And the government's been really good. They've frozen all rents for 3 months. They've allowed companies to put employees on, lower schedules and reducing their pays. All bank loans and all of those stuff are frozen. So they've really sort of, as a country, they seem to be coming together pretty well. Let's
Uh,
see.
I think what you mentioned, what really strikes me the last couple of weeks is that for this whole situation to cope with it, it is better coped in places where there are two things. One is a community or communities, and second is the sense of trust within those communities, on between the communities and the government, local, national, etc. And we both have friends all over the place, and I don't know how much you follow the news. I follow them too much, but and reports from friends, and it is so clear that where I live, outside the door, that outside my window, when I look outside, it's a pretty new development where we live, and I wouldn't say this has been a community in the sense of people have had their parents, their grandparents knowing each other, because all the people just as a matter of fact moved in, but the community is forming much more right now, and there is a sense of trust with that, and that's helpful. But I can see also what's happening in the location where there is no trust, or it's limited, or there is no sense of community or mistrust. I hear reports of friends saying that in a given country, people who have the virus, they are almost being treated as criminals, or someone to be punished. Or there was a case of suicide in Poland. A doctor who got coronavirus killed himself because people started, like, it became a known fact that this particular individual is sick, and he couldn't cope with the hate that
Yeah,
he was met with. So it's just, it's amazing to see a story where you had, as you said, too much food for people to share with, and on the other, in some other place, it doesn't matter whether this is Poland, as I mentioned, or any other countries. I think you will probably see communities in Costa Rica that don't have a trust, or you will have communities in Poland that do
of
have it.
course. Of course,
So
of course, and like you said, everywhere there's going to be everything, and there are areas in Costa Rica where the same thing is bound to happen, and where there will be violence, and for sure. And like you said, it's different communities. I think that trust. Another thing that links to that is the idea of faith. Here, people have a lot of faith, not in a religious way of an organized religion, but more in the sort of, I guess, new age, shamanic
okay,
kind of way. And I told my mom, I think it's the night that they announced that the country was gonna be locked down for a month, and everyone was like, "Fuck, it's high season." We're all expecting another 2 months of income before it drops, and then it drops until December. So now there's basically no tourism anyway. Even if they reopen the border, there would be no tourism until December. So, it's a big dramatic thing. And I invited a few friends at home for dinner, a few of the neighbors, people who are depending on tourism. They have no backup, they have no money saved. They live months to month, week to week. And all of them were like, "Oh, this is great. This problem is going to open so many new doors. This is going to be such a positive change. This is going to be amazing. We're all going to come out like so much better out of this." And blah, blah. And I told him, I was like, I love the fact that here I'm surrounded by people who pretty much exclusively all have a positive response to problems. They all look at this being like, "This is great. This means we need to change. This means we need to learn something. This means, we need to adapt." And everybody is thinking about this as a great thing. And so it becomes a great thing because everybody is like, "Okay, how do we make the most out of this?" And so, yeah, there's definitely a mindset that makes a big difference.
so what are you doing right now, the whole days? Because you also have a business. You have the restaurant that was going great,
Yeah.
and
And yeah, it was going great. I did done like almost 50% of the income I did last year within the first 3 months. So I was like, I'm doing great. I was about to do more construction, invest in starting a line of products to sell in supermarkets. So, and then I had this sort of thought, and I was like, wait a second, you know what? Let's not rush into this. Let's wait until the end of the high season. We've got another 2 months. Let's see what happens. And thanks God, whoever is in charge, whatever, God, that I had this amazing insight and thought of not investing right away and actually taking a time out. And so when this hit, I'm like, okay, I can last until the next high season. So
Mhm.
I'm in a place where I didn't have to focus on what I had done with my days. Restaurants closed completely. And I decided I would spend my entire days helping people as much as possible. So I've been hosting people here. I've been creating a lot of space here for dinners and for lunches and for people to come here and dance, as well as doing a lot of online coaching with people from here, but also from other places around the world, around what to do now and how to handle this situation. And the rest of my time that hasn't been spent doing that. I've spent doing two things. One is writing my next book. Well, finishing the little details of the book that needs to be published now, and then writing the one that's going to be hopefully published within the next 2 months or 3 months, about the integration of masculine and feminine.
Okay.
So that's been very exciting, and also I've been doing more dance classes and focusing my attention on creating a dance routine that I can film and put online and be like, there you go, that's a finished product, something that is done. So yeah, this is kind of where my time is focused, and now as I'm realizing that this thing might not be a month or two, but might actually be 3 or 6 months or more, and that if the US closes its border for the next 3 months, and most of Europe does the same, or 6 months, like the UK did, we're not going to have tourists in December. So now I'm also starting to slowly think about um, doing two things. One is to build a much bigger garden here. So I'm talking with a friend about investing in making a farm here, which is really exciting because that goes through all the climates, all the financial climates. We all need to eat always, and if at least it's food for myself and to share with other people around, it's great. And then the other thing is thinking about starting to do frozen dinners. So starting to do meals that I can ship to people once a week, every Sunday, and then they've got a week worth of dinner in the freezer, so they can just defrost, add some rice or pasta, and have a nice freshly cooked dinner. Um, so yeah, so starting to think about different things and also considering doing cooking classes by video.
Okay, that sounds fun.
So yeah, because on dinner, there's people who want or are tired to eat their own fucking food every day. And they're like, I want to eat something that I could eat in a fine dining restaurant. And I'd happily show them and spend, 6 hours with them to teach them how to make, let's say, like 3 or 4 different dishes. Um, and then they could cook up for themselves and probably not their friends because of the quarantine right now, but you know.
What's your favorite dish to eat?
My favorite dish that I cook or that other people cook?
And if you were to have your last meal in the world, what you could have anything and everything. What would that be?
Last meal, I think I would have to go with udon noodles.
Okay.
Udon, like, but not any udon. Like, I'm thinking, especially there's one place in London that has these amazing fucking udon noodles, handmade, or as the story goes, feet made actually. Um,
Okay.
and they serve it like their basic dish is literally a bowl of those udon noodles with a clear broth, and that's it. And it's ridiculously amazing. I mean, and then once you add all the other stuff on there, the little like half cooked egg and the little nori and the little other stuff that they add to it. Oh my god, that's heaven. That would be it. That would be the dish. What about you? What would be your last dish?
That's actually a very good question. What would be my last dish? Hmm. You know, the first thing that came to my mind when you asked it was fried rice. And yeah, let's go with that for a while. And it would have to be spicy. So well, actually, so
Right.
yeah, fried rice with lots of chilies.
Oh, nice, nice one.
And what's your favorite cook? What's your favorite food to cook?
For myself or for others?
To cook. So I had in my mind the process of cooking.
To the process of cooking. Ooh, oh, that's interesting. I'm lazy, so it has to be something simple.
Make it fried rice with lots of chilies, and we we good. I think we are frozen.
That's my favorite thing to cook. That
You
is
know
so
what
easy.
happened? You were frozen throughout this whole response, so I have no idea what's your favorite food to cook.
No! Oh my god. Okay, let's
You
just start
froze
again.
when you were thinking, and it literally came to life when you said, "And this is what I." It's like so.
So
If you
uh, my favorite my favorite thing to cook because it's the easiest is pasta with olive oil, salt, pepper, and garlic. That's it. That
okay,
is that is the easiest, the fastest, the simplest, the most umami, the most happiness for amount of time. Is the best time to flavor and enjoyment investment that I can make.
okay.
I think.
So let's jump to another topic, but the one that you mentioned. You mentioned books. You mentioned one about the integrating masculine and feminine. What's the other book?
Yes.
So that's one,
Oh,
and
the
what's
other
the
book.
other?
So the other book, the one that's pretty much ready, is it's interesting. It's a lady who saw my Facebook posts, took them, and then wrote calligraphies of her favorite lines from the post, and she sent me those calligraphies. And so I told her, I was like, "Oh, this is beautiful. What are you doing with this?" And she had no plan what to do with it. And so I told her, I said, look, you know what? If you had enough of those little beautiful calligraphies, and it was really interesting to see the sentences she would pick out of my post. And in the sentences she would pick, I would see them and often be like, wow, that's a really good sentence. Did I write that? I was like, really? And I have to go back to the post, and then inside the post, I'm like, oh yeah, I wrote that. In the post, it made complete sense and was like whatever. But when it was taken out and on its own, it was like, wow, this is really profound. Oh, this is great. And so I told her, I said, look, I can't see those sentences in my post because to me it's just one of many sentences, but you spot them. So I said, look, if you can find enough of those and write them, maybe we can make a book. And basically, so this is the first book that I wrote without writing it. So I didn't really do anything of the book in itself in a way. So she made those calligraphies, and then she picked a few of her favorite Facebook posts of mine to go along with those calligraphies. She picked some of her favorite photos from my photos from my photo collection, and then we send that to a friend of mine who's a graphic designer, and sort of he's now putting together the whole thing, and he asked for a few more little updates. We need to send him the bios, and the book should be ready. So It's kind of a little motivational book, I guess, inspirational book with beautiful images, beautiful quotes, and a few Facebook posts
About writing without
all
writing.
around the idea of well,
Um,
and the linking thing, I guess, between all of them is this idea of trying to be human and what can we learn from plants and nature about this thing of trying to be human.
um, about writing without writing, that you said this is the first book you wrote without writing it. I have a friend who wrote several books, and he says that whenever he starts, uh, if you realize that around 20% or a bit more or less of the book are spaces, so you essentially start with 20% of your book ready if you sit in front of the empty page.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that. And actually, as I was listening to you, I realized actually I'm completely lying. It's not the first book that I wrote without writing it. I've done that many times. My first book, I didn't write it either. I spoke it and someone transcribed what I said. And then my second book, no, my second book I wrote, the third book was also co-written. So a lot of it was something that someone else was writing again on my behalf in transcript. So yeah, I didn't write most of my books, I guess. So uh,
And also you
yeah,
have written 20% of your other books that are still to come with the empty spaces.
exactly. So out of including the empty spaces, I've probably written about 10% of my books. Um, which is good enough.
Not
It's a
bad.
good percentage.
Not bad.
The newest book, actually, I've written most of it. No, the newest book, and the newest one is a lot more profound, and that's probably going to be a thicker kind of book, and it's very different. It's more autobiographical.
It's very, very
Um,
personal.
so it's a lot more personal. And yes, I'm really excited about this because it's different from the others, and the process of writing it is also feels a lot more profound. So as I'm writing it, I'm getting new insights and realizing how the writing of the book is the process itself again.
So tell me more about this book. You mentioned this is about the integration of feminine and masculine. I've followed you on Facebook. I know you a little bit, so I know what you're talking about. But it will be probably interesting and surprising to many others.
Sure. So the idea is that I've always lived my life as a straight white guy, middle class, normal, everything. But somehow I've always had a different thing happening in my private life. And even though I've always been attracted to women, I've always also loved doing a lot of things that people consider to be feminine and do not be guy stuff. So I always liked having long hair, for example. I always liked jewelry, and I love doing things like sewing and having colorful clothes and a bunch of things that, on a rational level, has nothing to do with being man or woman, but at a social level is. And so everyone was like, "Why do you do girl stuff?" And then eventually, when I got to university, girl stuff in the UK became gay stuff. I was like, why are you doing all these gay stuff? And I was like, why is wearing colorful clothes gay now? What? But anyway, one thing leading to the other, we're jumping to a couple of years ago to about a year ago, and I started wearing women's clothes in public in Costa Rica, and then in the US, in the Philippines, and then now even in the countryside where I live, amongst people in the village here who've never left the country, don't speak English, are supposed to be uncultured and uneducated and homophobic and everything. And I go out with a skirt or with a booty short makeup, and everybody's fine. Everything's great. And so I do, I now live my life completely with sort of a mix of feminine and masculine, and and that's been amazing because it's opened a whole new world for me. Um, and so the book is around how do we all integrate the masculine, the feminine within inside us, and how do we express it? Because I think that except maybe a few very rare people who are 100% masculine and 100% feminine, which is probable if we're all on a bell
Mhm.
curve, the vast majority of us are somewhere in the 30-70%. So we all have most of the majority of us will have probably at least 30% of the other gender's kind of energy or whatever you want to call it. And most of us will have 40-50% are somewhere in the, so it may not express in a physical way, it may express in an emotional way, it may express in different ways. But I think what's important is um, figuring out how do we live with the two and how do we live with the fact that it's different for everybody also. And that it's not black and white the way it used to be when I grew up, at least, where it was, you're a man or you're a woman, you're gay or you're straight. And that's a very binary way of looking at things. It's like saying you have either a black pencil on white paper or a white pencil on black paper. And your white pencil is not going to work on the white paper, and the black pencil is not going to work on the black paper. And instead of that, telling people, look, there's a full box here. You've got pencils of colors, and you've got paint, and you've got chalk, and you've got all sorts of different things you can play with, and you don't even have to paint only on the paper. You can paint on the wall. You can paint on the table. Have fun, create, and that's really what the book for me is about. It's opening people to the idea that you can be creative with the way this expresses in yourself.
What you're saying reminds me of something another friend of mine has said once. It was, it was said as a joke, put on the spot, but I think this is really something that it's one of those things that on one hand funny, on the other hand, it's a really beautiful thought. He even used it as a slogan for his business for a while, and he said that it's not enough to go outside the box. You also have to leave the shop with the boxes if you want to be really creative.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that.
Yeah. So
I love that. Because, yeah, getting out of the box is still thinking that there is a box.
yeah, it's
And
a
now it's
completely
like,
different
how do we
thinking.
get
Yeah.
out of that? Where, because, and that's being in the writing now and trying to put all my insights and thoughts together and experiences. That's what I'm realizing now is that the biggest struggle through this process was trying to understand what was happening to me and trying to understand who I was and what was going on with the framework of boxes. Because as long as I had to fit in a box, I needed to keep creating boxes. But it was kind of trying to jump from one box to that. Oh, wait, so maybe I'm this, or maybe I'm in that box, or maybe I'm in that box, or maybe I'm in that. So I was moving around, but yeah, it's only when I realized that, wait a second, all of these constructs need to be sort of open flat, and we can kind of clean everything off the table and say, okay, let's start this whole thing again from scratch as adults and not sort of with all the baggage we've been carrying with us as children and what we've been told, because the questions are really exciting. I mean, the questions are really profound. uh, Sorry, it's asking me to turn down the brightness because my phone is getting too hot. So let's reduce the brightness a little bit, and hopefully that won't change anything for you.
You are shining too much.
We're shining too much. Yeah, we're shining too much. Yeah, so that's kind of where does it all come from? And then the fact that through my process, I started receiving a lot of messages from men at first saying, oh, I'm going through the same thing. or I've been, wearing women's clothes in private. Um, and then the second wave was mothers who would send me messages saying, I've got a 10-year-old boy and he wants to put some pink, nail polish. Or I've got an 11-year-old son and he asked me for a princess costume, or, you know, things of that type. And then the third wave was when I started working with veterans, US veterans. And with two of them, we had a beautiful coaching conversation after they did plant medicine ceremonies. And with one of them, we're talking. At one point, kind of out of nowhere, I looked at him. I said, Have you ever asked your wife to be the big spoon and for you to try to be the little spoon?" And he started crying. And he was like, "Wow, I never even thought that that was an option. And yes, that would be amazing." And then the other veteran was slightly older. And we're talking about guys who killed hundreds, thousands of people. Um, and the other one, we talked about masculinity, femininity, how to integrate. I told him about my journey. 2 weeks later, he sends me a photo by email and says his wife painted his toenails pink. And this is the most beautiful and intimate thing that he's ever done with his wife. And, he may never do that again. But what's important is that he gave it a chance, gave it a try, and he got to experience that moment of intimacy, that moment of sharing something with his wife. And so that's kind of now this third wave is a lot of straight men who are starting to be like, hey, you know what? Actually, I maybe I can do that too. I've got a friend who started painting his nails black, dark colors. And funnily enough, he came one day and he was like, "Oh, it's so nice to see that you painted your nails. I painted my nails yellow." And I was like, "Well, actually, you inspired me. I saw you with those dark, nails the other day, and I thought, oh fuck, you know what? If he wears that, maybe I should also, wear some nail polish here." And he said, "Well, I'm wearing it because I saw you wearing one, wearing nail polish the other day." So it's kind of this idea that wait, maybe I can try that. And it doesn't mean that I have to be gay, and it doesn't mean that I have to become a transvestite or a cross dresser. It doesn't mean that I have to start going to gay clubs. It doesn't mean that I have to go to gay pride. It's like, okay, whatever. I'm gonna put a princess costume on. Okay, sure, whatever. Let's give it a try, and who fucking cares? So that's kind of what's been fun about this is seeing people's responses and how some people have said that it's been liberating. And that's why I guess this book feels so important to me.
No, and this is, I think, interesting. What you said about inspiring, and I think inspiring goes mutual when you are truly inspired and you inspire. I remember your post from the beginning of the pandemics that when you wrote that you had a person who canceled your reservation but told you to use the money for the benefit of the community, etc.
Yeah.
And this inspired me to do something similar with something that I already had paid for. That it didn't come to fruition, and the money was supposed to be back. The amount was tiny. The amount was small. So, but that's exactly what I did, and I did it on the same day. And I wrote that, well, cool. That's what I did. And you wrote like, wow, that this is inspiring or something. And I was so amazed to hear back from you what I got from you. Mm,
Mhm.
that was amazing.
Yeah,
I just
it's
wanted to
something that
share.
goes in circle.
Yeah, and I just thought that maybe we're not telling people how much we are inspired by them enough. Maybe we're stopping the circles too much. Because you didn't have to write anything back. You could have said
I,
like, oh yeah,
yeah.
cool, like, and so it's like, or you could have said like it was the right thing to do, like kind of judging me that doing otherwise would be not proper. But it was really something that I
Mhm.
felt meaningful, that what I got from you was beyond that, or even that
Interesting.
that was meaningful to you, although you have no clue who got this money from me and for what, and I have no clue what they will use for me.
Interesting. Interesting.
And I thought that what was beautiful in the whole
So
act,
yeah,
that somebody will benefit from it, from your post in Costa Rica. Someone somewhere in the UK or maybe somewhere else will benefit without even knowing that this
yeah.
originated from you, or the person,
And then you read it from
who,
this other guy.
yeah.
Which again, interestingly enough, it's the loop of inspiration. Because when I called him and I said, "Hey, thank you so much. This is amazing. You're inspiring. This is incredible." And he said, "Well, actually, the reason I sent you that email is because I went on your website and I read everything on your website about you and what you do and everything. And it was like I thought that you're an inspiring guy and you seem like the kind of guy who would do something really good with this money." So now that you say this, I didn't really connect that piece of the puzzle, but actually, uh, it's funny that it's a cycle that looped back on itself in multiple ways, because it looped back with him and then looped back with you. And God knows, on the other hand, maybe, with that person, it looped back with someone else also. Um, so yeah, I think that the idea of telling people you're inspired by them and seeing the inspiration is actually something that I became conscious of after seeing an interview with Ido Portal. I don't know
Mhm.
if Ido Portal rings a bell to you.
Not
He's a
unfortunately.
movement expert, and funnily enough, it's an interview very much like we're having now. Like it's a kind of a Facebook Live or YouTube Live kind of interview, conversation, and the guy asked him, "Oh, so who inspires you? Who's your inspiration?" And his answer I never forgot. He said, "I don't wait to get inspired. I make appointments with myself to create inspiration." And I was like, "Holy moly, what does that mean?" Like, and so suddenly I realized that I do that in a way unconsciously. I always look for inspiration, and I made a decision almost 10 years ago that I would only and exclusively watch movies and entertainment that is either inspiring or funny. If it's not funny, it's got to be inspiring somehow. It's got to elevate me and make me want to do stuff. And since then, I realized, since listening to him, I made it a very conscious, practical, very conscious practice of finding inspiration in everybody and making it my job to look for inspiration in people. So maybe that's maybe that's part of a result of that, and maybe this is a practice that can be spread, and that more of us can get used to doing, because we're never taught to do that in school. But it's pretty amazing when you take the time to sort of sit down and someone who bothers you and sit down with, okay, so what's inspiring about this person actually, rather than and sort of always sort of sit and be like, there's always inspiration we can find if we take the time to look for it. And obviously in this case, it kind of jumped on my face. So I was like, I can't not tell this person, because this is kind of,
Mm.
I have to make no effort to look for it.
That rings a bell with another something that I have in mind, having heard somewhere, is that everybody you meet is either your friend or a teacher. So um, so I was wondering who has been your biggest teacher, or the person who was hardest to be inspired by.
Oh God, my ex-wife has been probably the most painful, difficult thing to deal with, and the biggest turning point in my life. Because yeah, that's when I got into anger, and I was like rage. I could not understand where it was coming from. It was just, God, I was so angry, and I felt so hurt, and It was terrible. And at that time, a friend of mine, one of my best friend at the time, recommended the book Loving What Is by Byron Katie. It's an audiobook, and I can only recommend that to everybody. It's amazing. It's so simple. She has this very simple process for thinking through your thoughts, and she calls it judge your neighbor. So it's a very fun thing because it's all about judging your neighbors and judging the people and writing down all the shitty thing you think about them. And it's amazing because you never get to do that in any spiritual practice. But there, she's like, be petty, be mean, be childish. Don't try to be old. And so you're like, yeah, that guy's a fucking asshole and I hate him and he's a fucking jerk and blah, blah. And she needs to stop doing this and he needs to stop doing that. And she should do this. And, you know, and all the things that people need to do differently. And then she walked you through the process of how to use that to find inspiration, essentially, I guess, now that I think about it. And I didn't think about it like that at the time, but in a way, that's what that process does, is to help find inspiration within those people. And I listened to the audiobook 3 times in a month. The first month I listened to it 3 times. I was like, holy fuck. And then I worked with 4 different practitioners of Loving What Is to help me with my thinking, to do it with my ex-wife, of course, that was the big thing. And then with my brother, with my father. And then since then, I've learned to do that with all the people who bother me and annoy me. And it's become not quite an instantaneous process, but it's a process that now happens or can happen as a situation is happening. And so I can be sitting with someone who's annoying and frustrating me and go through the process in my head and be like, oh yeah, actually I love this person for that. Oh, this is amazing. I love that this person is bothering me so much. So yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I'm doing I'm doing this horrible thing when I have a question in my mind that I want to ask you instead of listen to you. But I was wondering if there was a person or a community that you would like to inspire that you know could be difficult or impossible. Who would that be?
to inspire.
Yeah, that you would like to inspire for about something for something.
I mean, who would be difficult? I don't know. Like, this sounds like 2 questions. Which one am I answering? Who do I want to inspire, or who would it be difficult to inspire?
Uh, who is difficult to inspire that you would like to inspire?
Oh God. Probably the people right now who I would like to inspire, who I'm finding the most difficult to inspire, are actually trans women and women and people who are non-binary and who are in that gender fluid kind of spectrum. Because I've tried to offer them help so many times, and somehow there's a weird rejection that they don't want to. And those who want help don't end up, it doesn't end up working. While with my friends who are mostly straights, somehow what I'm doing is helping them a lot, and I'm much better at helping them. So that's who I'm helping most right now and where I'm focusing most of my attention. But I would love to be helping more communities who are struggling, as well as helping, you know, kids, people. I got a message 3 weeks ago, I think, on Instagram from a kid in Australia, and then he made a little group with all his friends from Australia about the fact that they're gonna kill me and they're gonna come and beat me up and everything, and you know, and how they go around beating up trans people and old people and kids and whoever they don't like, basically. And so that's another type of group that I would love to interact with and would love to help, because I mean, with a little bit of research, it was very, very clear that he lives in one of the poorest neighborhoods in Melbourne. You know, and so the story is not very difficult to piece up, right? I mean, he's got a tough life, tough childhood. He thinks he has no options. He thinks he has no opportunities. He thinks that there's no, you know, nobody to help him. So he does what, in his word, he does what he can to fix the world and make the world a better place. So that to me would interest me a lot, because that's someone who's really lost, who has a lot of energy,
But
but
it's
completely lost.
but this is the person who reached out to you.
Yeah,
'Cause, that sounds to me like a cry for help more than anything else.
absolutely. That 100%. I agree.
That's, and again, something that just comes to my mind, that it's a story from yesterday actually, that I got a on Messenger funny GIF forwarded and sent to me by someone who used to be close to the family, but no longer is. Um, and okay, it's just really ridiculous GIF. I was like, oh, okay. And this is the person that I would usually talk over the phone or communicate through text message. And I was even surprised then to see that this is first ever message I got from this person on Messenger. I was like, okay, so I just wrote, okay, so how are you? What's going on? How are you feeling in all this? This person lives in Poland, and it turns out that he's the person, he is in the hospital, and once that happened, I realized that this was his way, sending a stupid gift. It was his way to saying, "I need you." He didn't write a single word along with this, and but
Yeah,
I could have ignored it. I could have done nothing. That there was, I could have not understood it. There was no reason why I should understand this is that. But it struck me that maybe some of the messages, some of the things that we
yes.
receive, that this type of or different types of context is nothing more but I need you type of a message. There's no questioning.
And I think this is especially true for men. And it's interesting you say, this is this male friend and this kid is a guy. And I think this is something that's very much the way men we've all been taught, which is you can't ask for help, don't express your feelings, don't express how you feel. You got to be strong, you got to handle every situation, you've got to be the man of the situation, you've got to be, everyone's relying on you, etc. And so I think, yeah, we've really lost that ability of asking for help and communicating. Like you said, this kid, I mean, and it's funny the way he reached out to me. He asked whether I was gay and why I wear women's clothes. And then I explained to him I wasn't gay, but that I liked wearing women's clothes. And it was like, oh, so are you trans? Are and I was like, well, no, I'm not a trans. I'm not, I'm a man, like, and whichever way you want to express it. But and I was like, oh, okay, well, that's fine then, because what I hate is all these people who change gender. And I thought, that I thought it was funny how and interesting how coherent he was being, and the fact that he very, politely checked whether I was one of those people he hated or not. Because I was clearly, closed, and he was like, "No, but then you're fine. As long as you're not changing gender, you're fine." And I thought that was kind of interesting and funny to see how he had a logic. I mean, he was coherent with his logic, and he wasn't going to insult me without first checking whether I was the right person to insult. Which, you know, so I agree with you. I think it's a cry for help. It's a cry for, like, please explain to me what's going on, but without having the word or the ability to receive. And that's kind of where it becomes difficult.
No, that's well interesting. Yeah, well, there's nothing worse than wasting your time on hating people you should not be hating. So he he managed his time. He's managed his resources. He was saving
Oh yeah, and I
his
kept being
his
nice to
emotions.
him and having nice messages with him. Yeah, I kept asking him how's he doing and what's up and blah blah, and like, so yeah, it's like it's been an interesting interaction for sure.
From what I know you, and from what you were saying, that uh, you support people around you a lot. But I was wondering, what kind of support are you getting, and what kind of support um, is
Oh,
important or needed for you?
Oh, interesting. What I'm support? Well, I mean, I've been getting a lot of support. It's been really amazing. My neighbors have, a lot of them have been helping me, bring stuff all the way here. So I've only had to go shopping once, I think, since the quarantine, because once or twice, that's it. Because every other time, neighbors have been coming over, people have been here for dinner, so they brought more food with them. They would bring the shopping list that I would give them. So that's been really good. And then I've had people help me here with the house. And and then a lot of friends who called, to say hi and have conversation like this. I find that this is a way of receiving help also. It's nice to be able to talk and share stories and listen to stories um I guess, do I ever receive more help? I'm not quite sure. I think for now that's been the main bit of help that I've received. And going forward, I'm definitely looking forward to get help with the garden, and that's for sort of local people who want to spend more time here helping build a garden into something that's not just sort of herbs and fun stuff, but that also has potatoes and yuca and carrots and beetroots and things that fill a stomach. And the other is help around the book. I guess that's right now. Um, it'd be very interesting to see any kind of help that we can get around the book, or help to spread more workshops around what to do in this situation. So, for example, yesterday I did a workshop for a group of women entrepreneurs here in Costa Rica, and we had 20 women, 10 women on the line. And, that's amazing because it means that we can multiply the time and we can multiply the effort, because then we have a community and I can spend time with that community, and then that multiplies because they're also helping each other while I'm not there. And so it really feels that that's a great way of using my time and my efforts. And so for the moment, that's really the main things. Yeah, I don't really need much help right now, but at some point I might need more help. But yeah, designer, I guess designer for the book might be a nice thing if someone wanted to design the book and make something that looks beautiful. Because I've got so many beautiful images and so much cool text, and it'd be great to lay it out in a way that's pleasant and easy to read.
So whether through this conversation or from any other side, I hope that that's gonna happen. As I think we'll be nearing finishing. Just I think the last thing I want to ask you is, I don't know I don't know what else would you like to say to those who listen, to those who don't listen to this, or just to me or yourself.
Well, to those who don't listen, I would like to say keep doing whatever you're doing. It's great. And to those who are listening, you should really question your life choices. If you're still here with us, I don't know. No, I don't know. Like, if you're still here with us, it means that you found something interesting and useful in this conversation. So feel free to reach out and say hi to me. I think I would say that if you've come to this point of the conversation, if you got here, we've got enough in common that it's worth saying hi and telling me who you are and telling me a bit about what you're up to these days, and maybe we can have a quick conversation by Skype or exchange a few messages and see where our connections can take us.
Right? Okay, that would be amazing for
What about
So
you? Is there any help that you're looking for as we're already on camera? Is there
you
anything you're
know,
looking for? Anything
I
that you
must tell
need?
you. I must tell you something that whenever I put my photo on Facebook, like my profile picture, you will usually find a comment underneath that says, "Again, I forgot to smile again." And as I'm talking with you, and as I'm looking at my face as well as I'm talking, you have noticed that I don't think I have smiled as much recently as through this conversation with you. So I think this was so much so much more fun, or so more than anything. And I'm really grateful to you, and I'm grateful to both of us for finally making this happen. So, and you know, at some point, hopefully again. That would be probably the best thing from this relationship that I could get. It's I have never done this type of conversation again, that we're recording and broadcasting, giving people insight into our mm, relationship that we had, that we built remotely over years, that we built meeting in Warsaw, meeting in London, that we some things we do similar, some things we do completely different, but it was so much fun. So I thank you for the smile that this conversation brought to me. I think this is priceless today.
My pleasure. My pleasure. It's been an honor being here with you again. And it's so nice to be asked questions and to be able to share and to hear your stories and your insights and your take on these experiences. So yeah, thank you so much. It's really
So
been a lot.
you've just you've just committed publicly, so I'll I'll hold you to that, and I'm really looking
Absolutely.
forward to our next conversations in public, and and our little conversations that we sometimes have under your posts or privately. So
Other private ones, absolutely.
yeah. So say hi to Andrea. Excuse her for not making you available to her when she came, and really all the best. Stay safe, guys.
Thank you. You too. Lots of love. All the
You
best.
too. Thank you so much, man. Cheers. Bye bye.
Bye.